Alright, in this video, I wanted to use the world here as a parable, a metaphor, an analogy here. As you can see here, we have different nations, different countries shown here on this map. And the point I wanted to make here is that it would be weird if, let's say, Russia said they are the one true country. Right? Be like, who says who? Right? If America said, we're the one true nation. According to who? Yourself? Right? It would be a little weird if they were saying something like that, right? And for any nation to say that they would rule over any other nation would be like, who are you? Right? They don't have any moral ground to be ruling over another nation. Each nation can have their own laws and regulations, their own currency, their own central bank or no bank. You know, they can have things set up the way they want and with how they want to deal with religion and all that stuff. We have no right to butt into their business. They have no right to butt into ours, right? And God would be the head of all the nations, right? A nation is not the head of another nation, right? They're all on equal playing field here. God is the head of each one. So if one nation was trying to say, oh, they're in the place of God and wanted to rule over the rest of the world, it would be right for the rest of the world to say no. All right? If they didn't want to go along with that. And that's where, wars break out and all this violence going on because somebody wants to take control and somebody doesn't want to be controlled. Right? So, what is the point I'm making here? Well, I'm sure you're already starting to grasp it, but I'm going to break this down a little bit further. If we go down to one country here, the United States of America, you'll see that it's broken up into 50 states. Together they make up a nation, right? Just like all the different nations or countries made up the world, well, here all the different states make up one country. And again, we see that even though the nation is made up of this one joined corroboration of states here, each state cannot rule over another state. Texas can't boss around California, California can't boss around Texas, and no state can mess around with the little tiny Rhode Island over here up in the Northeast. Right? Just because they're small, that doesn't mean another state gets to rule over them and tell them what to do. And they can't rule over some other state and tell them what to do. Right? Each state here can run things how they see fit. And the head of each state is the federal government, right? So another state can't say, hey, we get to tell all these other states what to do. Be like, who are you? Right? Who are you? Right? We're a state too. Like no state can rule over another. They each have their own sovereignty, but they all have the federal government as its head. And in like manner, you can see how, again, we bring in this to the church. Christ is the head. Right? The church is not the head. The church is the body. The body doesn't rule over the body. Right? Your lungs don't boss around the rest of the body. Your heart doesn't boss around the rest of the body. Your arms don't boss around the body. Your feet don't boss around the body. No, your body listens to the head. And that's it. If the body tries to actually take over and decide to do what it wants to do without the head, well, then you have neurological defects going on, right? Your body's not listening. You have some kind of tumor starting to grow. You're having a mutiny, a rebellion within your own body. You're having like an autoimmune disorder, right? You got all these things going on because your body doesn't want to submit to you, right? The head. And in like manner, the church makes up the body of Christ, even though it may be broken up. And in this sense, the churches that make up the entire body of God, of Jesus Christ, they may be different. Like we read in Revelation chapters 2 and 3, There's 7 different churches, and you can see these as like the 50 states. There's a state or a church that is accepting the deeds of the Nicolaitans and their doctrine. Another one is accepting the doctrines of Balaam. Another one is dealing with Jezebel. Another one is not in Jesus, and Jesus spit them out. Right? So they're all still part of the body there, part of the church, but they're not subject to the other churches. Right? Like the Laodicean church is not subject to the church of Sardis. The Philadelphian church is not subject to the church of Thyatira. Right? Jesus is the head of all those churches. Those churches can't boss around each other. There isn't one church that's the head of all of them, like Rome would like to say. Like they're the head of all the churches. No, they're not. Jesus is the head. And as we read in the scriptures, Jesus is the head of every man. The church isn't the head of every man. The pope, the cardinal, the bishop, the priest, pastor, the minister, the reverend, whatever you want to call your religious leader, they're not the head of every man. Christ is the head of every man. Right? And we see this, like I was just saying, the local church. You might have a guy here who's an overseer, but he is still subject to God. And if he doesn't want to listen to God, and he starts bringing in false doctrine, bringing all this other stuff, mingling with this state, there's no reason why you should stand for that and not say anything. Even if they end up kicking you out, like we read in 3 John, where the Apostle John was kicked out of a church and they wouldn't let him in. The apostle. So, don't be surprised if that's how the so-called Christian church would treat you if you want to stand for the truth. Another church, the Church of Galatia, when Paul writes to the Galatians, they were going after another gospel. So you see how each church is locally governed. And you may be saying, well, yeah, then when they go into error, there's no one to bring them back. Well, yeah, you reason with them. You talk to them. Right? You don't force them. You can't force someone to believe the truth. You can't force someone to reject a lie. You can't force someone to be Christian. So you reason with them. And if they reject it, they reject it. There's nothing you can do about that. Because God is the head, not you. Right? And that division actually helps us. Because what if that church that rejected the gospel, the Galatian church, what if that was the head of the churches? And all the churches were subject to the Church of Galatia. And they accepted a different gospel. Well, then that would affect all the churches now, wouldn't it? So you see that how the division there protects us. Just like if we went back over here to America, those of you who are Republicans, if all these states were washed over blue, you wouldn't like that now, would you? And if you were on the left, you were a Democrat, and all these states washed over red, you wouldn't like that, right? So the division here actually protects you. So that if you want to go to a blue state in a blue city, you can. If you want to go to a red state in a red city, you can, right? That division helps you, but if the whole nation is forced to be one or the other, well then you're stuck, right? Imagine if we go back to the whole world here, you got a world dictator, not Hitler. He took over the world during World War II. You got a one world government, one nation. But Hitler is the emperor. Well, would you like that? I would imagine not. What if it was Stalin or the Pope? Would you want that? Right? So you see that the division protects you. So you are not subject to some great tyranny. Keep in mind that the Tower of Babel had Satan trying to unite the world to build this tower to go to heaven. And it was God who caused the division and the breaking up of everyone into different languages and nations. Because that was a protection. So we end up with the family, where the man is the head. And that's what they're trying to destroy. Because the whole foundation of all of this, for the church, for the state, for the country, for the world, is the family. So if they can disrupt the man being the head and get the wife not to submit to the man, well, then the children are going to follow suit and not submit to the man. And then you got all this disorder, and you get families breaking up, no respect for men or men, and then that system crumbles down. Then the church starts to crumble, the state, the country, and the world, and then you got order out of chaos where they rebuild it. So I just wanted to make this quick video to show how division is a good thing. Because imagine your family if there was one man who is the head of every family. It's not Jesus, it's some man you know, like the Pope, right? Would you want to have to submit to the Pope and everything he says to do with your family? Or if it's some imam, some Muslim fella who's the head of every family? So you being the head of your own family protects that family. So if all families had one head, that one head would just need to be corrupted and be evil and selfish, and it would affect everybody. But since everybody's divided up, you have to take over each family individually. You have to take over each man individually. So the division is a protection. So, with all that being said, thanks for watching, and take care.